And we're live. And we're live for another episode of Slaaap Haaapy.
Let a bug hit windshield, scrape those off. My team running up big hills, they won't stop. We can do it like this.
That's right, people. We're here. We're doing it. I'm Savilian. I'm the host of Slaaap Haaapy. And today I'm here with Ash from Smash Music Group. Ash, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. So at Smash, I do events and artist management, do a couple of different gigs. At the moment, I work with Archer and Drest.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty cool.
So would you say your like main title in terms of like that side of the business is artist management?
Yeah, I would say I kind of float between artist management and events coordinator. Currently, Drest and I work together on more of a bookings level than we do management because we've just had someone else kind of come on the team. So it's a little bit different now. But with Archer, definitely artist management. It's been that way for a couple of years now.
Okay. And how do you like break up the two or define the two? Because I feel like they would interlap a fair bit, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess a little bit tricky, but I think it's just deciphering depending on what's going on at a certain moment. So when it comes to artist management, that's, more so with Archer, it's kind of taking care of all of the PR and media when it comes to her releases, but then also taking care of her shows and, being a friend as well. I think is the main thing that's not really touched on in artist management is when they send their songs and, being a supporter and like an advocate, but then also giving constructive criticism.
Yep.
When it's needed.
Yeah.
When it comes to Dress, we definitely work a lot closer together now on his shows. I don't really take care of the PR side of things anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But still every now and again, he'll ask me to forward something to a contact of mine. So yeah, it just really depends what's going on.
Yeah. 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 I could imagine that would, because I feel like they both, I know that like traditionally in the business there is artist managers and there's booking agents, so they operate pretty individually, or but I feel like they could very easily overlap, because I know that like if you're a good booking agent, for example, you're kind of thinking about the next steps for the artist that you're booking. So like which I feel like comes under management. It comes under management, because if you're thinking like, we want to sell out this room, and then we kind of like in 6 months' time, we're trying to sell out that room, and then, we're trying to get on.
Definitely.
So like the forward thinking that's involved in like booking acts is the same kind of, I think the same kind of forward thinking and planning that is involved in artist management as well. So
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think it really depends on what kind of booking agent you are, because there's a lot of freelancers out there that kind of just do like one-off for a lot of artists. And when you do that, you kind of just working with the gig and that's it. You kind of leave it at that. But in terms of my relationship with Drest and how we work on things, it's a lot more forward thinking. We're kind of like, okay, we've got this show now. We want, this other show soon, kind of planning ahead for the whole year and thinking about, when it comes to supports and stuff, if people hit him up and they want him to jump on a show, it's kind of like looking at the rest of his roster and what's going on and if it's going to fit. So I definitely think it's kind of a bit of like you said, an overlap with artist management. And like there's a bit more strategy to it. It's not just literally just kind of like whatever happens, whatever show comes, we'll take.
Yeah. It's more about thinking about the long-term implications of all of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always trying to pick the right shows and make sure it lines up well. The biggest thing that I say to him is, if you've got your own main show, as in, you're the headliner, don't be doing little side gigs on either side of it, because people would just go to those. So it's just navigating, I think, and learning from your mistakes as well, as much as anything else is, I think. But there's a lot of mistakes to be made in the music industry, I think, but always good ones. I think you always learn from them. Yeah,
totally. I'll tell you, I'll tell you a couple little stories. I don't know if they're, I don't know how accurate these are in terms of my memory, but I do remember maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, because I studied entertainment management at JMC. And I remember at the time, so two things were happening. Alice in Wonderland. Do you know her, the DJ?
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland, and the other one was Allday, was kind of popping at the time. And I just remember really paying close attention to the way that they structured their not just their touring, but their kind of like forward planning as far as like.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they did like they did a regional tour. So like a maybe 20, 30 date regional tour. And then he kind of, so he built like a bit of groundswell in regional communities. Then he went and hit, I'm pretty sure it was like the main centers, but it did it in like kind of smaller rooms so that they kind of sold out. And then they made sure that next time when they went back there, they actually could go to the bigger rooms, and the people from the country are kind of like, you know, also adding to the hype. And they actually built the whole like kind of rollout over like an 18-month period. They did it in such a way that like it just had, you know, just this total dissemination of who he was and what he represented. They did it same with Alice in Wonderland. That just did a couple of different tour ideas. And I just feel like
really cool.
Bookings can be so hands-on and so strategic if you're if you're willing to go down that path, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I was speaking to Drest about this very recently, actually, and talking about, you know, when you start doing touring, regional is always the best first way to go, because as you were saying, what Allday did is like you start to build a community out in those regional areas, and then you'll have people there that will come to your city shows. And make, you know, a bigger mark. So it's always good to start small, I think. You know, like with venues and stuff, it's always just being very strategic about which direction you're going in, and trying not to book crazy big venues too early on, because everyone can see an empty room. If you go to the really small venues, even if you don't have full capacity, you have a fair bit of people there. It looks like it's packed.
Yeah. And you want to you want to vibe. You really want to nail a vibe. You want people walking away from the night going, "Oh, that was fucking cool." Like, yeah,
exactly.
You know, you don't necessarily you know, especially when you're trying to build an audience, you're not necessarily thinking about, "Oh, I need to make X amount of dollars." You're like, "I want to create good vibes. I want to make sure that people leave like feeling something." And
that's huge.
Yeah. So no, that's cool. So Tell me about okay, so give me the story of Smash. Where's Smash come from?
Smash. So in 2018, 2019, I was studying entertainment management as well, but I was doing it at Collart.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my really good friends at the time, her name's Emily, she wanted to start getting back into music, because we actually used to do like shitty music together when we were like 15. Never went anywhere because we were 15.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'd always shared a connection through music. And so when she got back into music, said she wanted to start releasing things, she had a lot of inspiration from, you know, Allday, Mora, a lot of Australian artists like that. And she came to me because she knew that I was learning about it, and said, "Hey, like, you know, can you just help me out? Let's try and get a single out there and see where it goes." So we recorded this single at Collart, and we had someone from Collart make the beat and master it as well. And then we released it, and it kind of just blew up. It was, neither of us really knew what we were doing, but everyone else kind of looked to us then, and particularly me at the time, and was like, "Oh, you know, I want to release music. I'm doing all these things. Can you help me?" And so I started like officially managing Em at that time, who's Archer.
Yep.
But then I also
what's the name of the song?
Picking up Malibu.
Malibu.
So
okay, cool.
It's got, I think, nearly 2 million streams on Spotify now. It has been out for a few years, but it just has always been consistent on streaming services, with just always getting a lot of traction, which we never put any PR efforts or marketing into it, because we didn't really know what we were doing. We just kind of pushed it out there and hoped for the best. So it was kind of an accident, but then people started coming to me thinking I knew what I was doing. And I didn't really at the time. I was still learning. But I agreed to help a couple of other people. So I started managing this band called Imms. They're not together anymore. But then we started doing things. And then I decided to, I guess, just make a management group, because it was the direction I was going in with Collart anyways. It's what my interest was.
Yep.
So I made that, had a launch party with both the artists there, and it was relatively successful. And then started doing a couple of regional shows with Spins, which didn't actually go as well as we'd hoped because we were still learning. But then we did a single launch at Yaya's and we sold it out. So it was just like, I think there was a lot of losses and times where mistakes were made, but it was just constantly learning and, you know, getting a better win after the shitty time. And then Spins ended up breaking up. So it was just Archer and I again for a little while. But then at the start of 2020, I think, when we were having all the bushfires in Australia, I threw a fundraiser. So that was the first gig that I think I'd done that wasn't like a single show or some kind of launch show for one of my artists. It was like an actual event. Kind of went into it blind, didn't really know what I was doing, but I just had this idea. I was like, you know, I want to raise money. I'm passionate about this. I know other people are. So it was a fundraiser for Wildlife Victoria. And we raised, I think, just over $900, which was really cool. And then, after that, I was like, you know what? I really enjoy doing fundraisers. This is really fun, and it's a really good way to get people out and, you know, get behind something. So then I ended up doing another one at the end of 2020, which was for an organization called the Song Room, and they supply underfunded schools with like music programs and musical instruments and stuff, which was a cool cause. So got behind that. That went really well. And then last year in March, I wanted to do another fundraiser, but I wasn't sure what for. And I looked at what was going on, you know, what kind of national holidays there were and things like that, and found out that March was actually National Endometriosis Awareness Month, which is a disease that affects women. And I was like, oh, you know, this is a really good one. I've wanted to do a girls only show for a while because there's not many out there. So we put that together and raised $1,000, which was sick. It was the biggest event that I've had. So since then, I kind of diverted into events a little bit more and wanting to do bigger things, slowly getting there, but then also still working with independent artists and kind of guiding them, specifically like Archer and Drest, and then whoever else comes to me, I'm always happy to give advice and help. But yeah, it's just kind of accidentally happened. I always kind of do things on impulse. I don't really think them through, but I'm starting to be a little bit more strategic about things now. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of happy accidents. You just keep falling into things. And you're like, oh, this is kind of working. I might just roll with it.
Honestly, it has been a little bit like that. I wish I could say that I planned everything the way it was, but yeah, I did not.
No, do you know what? I think you'd be surprised how true that is for the majority of us. Like even I was speaking, absolutely. As I said, I was speaking to Kieran today, and you know he engineers for a living now, but that was not his intention. It was purely a moment where the stars aligned, certain things happen, and and next minute he's just like a full-time engineer. And you know, I think it happens pretty frequently. It's just whether or not we're like aware enough to go, oh, is this the thing that we want to be doing? And just awareness. I think awareness is the key. Like, is this what I want to be doing? Could I do this better? Am I wasting my time? Am I going down a tangent that I just, you know, realistically, like I'm just doing it because it's filling time? Like, you know, I think just the awareness of like, actually, why I'm here, do I want to be here? Could I be spending my time doing something better? I think that's the key in those kinds of situations. Because I feel like, you know, if you can stumble into something and you look around, you're like, okay, this is an accident. This is pretty fucking cool, and I'm kind of good at it. Let's level up. You know, then you can actually turn it into something like Smash Group, which is what now, 2-3 years old, and
I think it's nearly 4 years old.
Nearly 4 years old.
Yeah, I think just turned 3 like end of last year. So it's pretty crazy. But I think I think a lot of the music industry is just kind of trying to navigate your way through and see what happens. I think with a lot of independent artists as well, you know, they're always just kind of putting stuff out there and hoping it goes well. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. It's just always like you never know which way it's going to go. You can plan and plan and plan, and something can go fucking terribly. So you just never know.
Yeah. I was listening to this podcast the other day, an artist talking about playlisting, and they were pitching to playlists. They were pitching a playlist. They were trying to, kind of massage relationships for like years and years and years, thinking that they had the single that was going to break them, and nothing. They just kept falling on deaf ears, and eventually they just put out one single that they were like, oh, this is kind of good, but it's like, we didn't think it was anything amazing, and that was the one that actually got the playlisting and went kind of viral. And it just, you can plan as much as you want, but at the end of the day, the market's a market, the consumer's a consumer, and you just gotta roll with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very unpredictable, especially with shows now after the last 2-3 years with COVID. You still have weekends where a show can just go really terribly because, there might be another wave going around and people are isolating or people are scared.
Yeah.
Or, workplaces are short staffed, so people are going to work rather than coming out.
Yeah.
So it's very unpredictable at the moment. I think over the last few years, though, artists have gotten more into their art.
Yep.
Also really helps them. But yeah, I think it's just everything's a very big learning curve at the moment. And I think a lot of artists in our scene at the moment are kind of just growing and just rolling with the punches. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So all right, so Drest and Archer, they're the main two that you're working with. Is there anyone else?
Yes. I did do a bit of work for an artist called Bears last year. I did her release Hercules with her.
Mm-hmm.
And, always try and pop her on shows and stuff. I was managing her for a little bit, but it just kind of got a little bit too time restricted with already having Archer and Drest. So, we just had a conversation about it and agreed to, help here and there, but not full time, just because I didn't feel like I was giving my best.
Yep.
There's a couple of other artists. The band Taxivators sometimes comes to me for a little bit of advice or just a bit of assistance, which I'm always happy to do, one-off things.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, at the moment, not really working with anyone else. I was managing Sunday, but she's retired from music. So not doing that anymore. But yeah, it's cool.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And so have you been working on someone?
Yeah, so I heard that quite a while ago, but the new addition to the team kind of took the lead with the PR on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So playlisting and everything is definitely a big thanks to him, but also Drest himself. He puts a lot of effort in behind the scenes. He's very different to a lot of artists that I've worked with before. He's very self-sufficient in the way that he wants to get a lot of things done himself, and he's always, meeting with different people, different industry professionals, trying to get advice and things like that, and then also always going out of his way to have sessions with other artists and learn new things. So I think a big part of
his
playlisting with that was, yeah, absolutely. Big part of his playlisting on that song was down to him and then the new guy as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, congrats to those guys because congrats to the whole team because, yeah, it's pretty cool to see all those playlists pop up. Do you got to go?
Oh no, I'm all good.
Yeah, it was super cool, and I'm sure everyone over there was pretty excited, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was honestly a crazy moment because I think with a lot of his recent singles, even the EP that we just did last year, we've just been hoping for playlisting and just, keep pushing towards it, trying to get our hands on as much media coverage as possible. And it just kept not happening. We got a couple of decent playlists before, but nothing like New Music Friday. So that was insane. And yeah, a very big pat on the back to Drest and the new guy on the team. And yeah, Drest is very, like I said, very self-sufficient. So he's got plans for the rest of the year, music-wise. He's constantly creating. So there's no shortage of Drest music out there.
Beauty. And in terms of the single launch next week, how are you feeling about that? How's everything tracking?
Yeah, good. So again, that was very much organized by Drest himself. He actually started going to the Leadbeater a little bit and talking to the guys there. And then they ended up offering him a place for a show, like, hey, you want to come do a gig? And so that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah.
Which was awesome, just going out and constantly networking. But yeah, I'm pretty keen. I don't think I've seen yourself and Luke live, so I'm keen to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new girl on the lineup, Chloe, she actually reached out to us and said, do you have any shows coming up? So
that's cool.
That's going to be cool as well to see her jump on and, just constantly having new support acts on all the lineups is huge, I think, and kind of just changing it up.
Do you get that a lot? Do you get artists reaching out to you looking for shows?
Yeah, I have had quite a few over the last few years. I always try and accommodate where I can, but it's always usually been when there's nothing in the works, so it's kind of hard to
point him in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's definitely something that we want to try more of. Drest and I were speaking about this recently, and the main thing that we want to focus on with upcoming shows is, not having the same support more than once too close together. It's kind of changing it constantly, seeing what kind of crowds come and expanding to people that are outside of like our inner circle, like our inner network, and seeing who they can bring to the show and, making new fans, I guess, new listeners. Yeah.
I think that's one cool thing about Allday that I noticed is that whenever he would do the bigger tours, like he'd do like, the kind of the bigger rooms, like 2,000 cap rooms and stuff like that. He would always, and this is as far back as I can remember, maybe before he might have done something different, but as far as I can remember back to like Startup Cult and just before that when he was dropping the EP, Loners Are Cool and stuff like that. When he went on the tours, he would always put on fucking random acts. It'd be like it'd be three completely different acts. It'd be like a pop artist like Asta, and then like then he'd have like Barrow, the rapper from Melbourne. He'd always have like three totally random acts, but he'd always have different acts every time he toured. So it was really cool. Like he was like essentially acting as a bit of a tastemaker, like a he would absolutely, he would kind of identify people in the scene that he thought was doing cool shit. He'd put them on. So one, it gave them a platform, but it showed him to be someone who was pretty in touch with, what was going on, and absolutely, and also got to cross pollinate audiences. So like if you were like following Barra or Asta and you weren't necessarily into Allday, you go to that show, and now maybe you're a fan of Allday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a huge thing. I think the first time I ever knew who Morat was or found out about it was at an Allday gig. And I remember him saying something along the lines of, or maybe it was her that said it, that she used to be a big fan of Allday. And then, now I think she's even bigger than he is, like, because he kind of found her and, started taking her on tour and stuff. And like, it's fucking crazy how someone has the power to do that and will do that, as opposed to just picking up who's popular at the moment, like introducing new acts to the scene. Yeah, he didn't have to do that. Like he didn't have to give those people opportunities. And he didn't. He could have easily just put his boys on, and sometimes he did, but like the majority of the time, he just put on random dudes who he thought, and females as well, who he thought were cool and doing cool shit. And absolutely. Yeah, it seemed like that he prioritized that above everything else. Rather than what was popping or whatever. Yeah, no, and he's very good to communicate with as well from an industry standpoint. I know that Archer and him have had conversations before about like her music, and he's always just given her like really good advice about what she's making, and always very good feedback. So it's good that he, like, despite how big he's gotten over the last, however many years, he's still very reachable and very grounded. And I think it's a very good, inspiration to a lot of other artists in our scene at the moment. It's a great trait. It's a great trait. Yeah, absolutely. No entitlement there. Just like, I'm just a dude who makes music, and yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So I look, I don't know when this podcast is going to come out, so I can't say, your show that's on this week.
No, that's all good.
Bab 2.0.
Yes.
Do you want to tell me about that? Obviously,
so
like talk more. Like, obviously, we'll talk about it. Like, we might be able to put this out tomorrow or something. But let's just say we don't.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about the show and what it means, the artists that are playing on it, stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's the second annual fundraiser for Endometriosis Australia. So essentially, all of the profits after the artists are paid goes directly to Endometriosis Australia. When I do fundraiser gigs, I always take a photo of the receipt that we send across and post it everywhere so everyone, it's pretty transparent.
Yeah.
All the girls that are on the lineup typically know someone that has had endometriosis themselves, or some of the girls I think do have endo.
Yeah.
But it's a very big thing at the moment because there's not many lineups out there that even have more than one female artist, let alone if they have one at all. So it's a huge thing to actually have an entire lineup that's filled with girls.
Yeah.
It's just, I remember last year, one of the artists that we're going to have again this year, her name is Yara, and she did this big speech, and it was just so heartwarming because she was speaking about the fact that, as women, we all know what kind of goes on behind the scenes in the music industry. And it's still a big thing that today girls are just mistreated in the industry, no matter what position they work in, if they work as a sound engineer or an actual artist themselves.
Yeah.
And being a part of Babes Against Bullshit, it's a really safe community. And it's just, it's that one show of the year that everyone that I know on the lineup and myself, we all kind of look forward to just being able to have the green room with ourselves and not share it with, I don't know, guys that might be misogynistic or things like that. It's just, you don't have to worry about it. It's just that one show that you can just kind of take a breath. And I think that the way that Yara portrayed it was so much better than how I'm explaining it. But yeah, it's just, I think, a big community thing. And I think it's a very good step in the right direction in regards to putting more girls on lineup in the industry. Because, a lot of shows will just chuck one on there as the opening act and that's kind of it. So it's nice to have that. But then also be fundraising and raising awareness for what endometriosis is, because not a lot of people know what it even is. Let alone, people that have it. So that's a huge thing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's such a cool thing to hear about, but also such a heartbreaking thing to hear about at the same time. For you to
absolutely.
go for, the speech from Yara, it's this is the one event where I can feel that I can just be totally free and not have to worry about that kind of masculine energy trying to fucking whatever it is hit on me or just put pressure on me unnecessarily. It's great that there is that space that exists, but fuck, it just sucks that there has to be that feeling where it's this is the one event where I can fully let my hair down and just be myself.
Yeah, it's so bittersweet because it's amazing that an event that I run can be that for those girls, but it's just sad to think about how many events there are in the year that, female artists or crew members are going to feel that way behind the scenes and no one hears about it. No one listens to it. So it's horrific. It's pretty gut wrenching, but I think that's a very big thing that I'm hoping starts being spoken about more. I remember speaking to a lot of the girls in my local industry community just about experiences they've had with, other men in the industry. And it's really sad. But, I think little things like this will hopefully become bigger things and start making more of a difference at some point. But, until then, who knows? It's just kind of, rolling with the punches. But I think when it comes to the event itself, I am hoping to keep it as a big annual thing and just keep doing it every year. And next year, I think my biggest goal is for the lineup to have more diversity, because at the moment, as much as it is amazing to be an all-female lineup, I would like to have, some non-binary people on the lineup because endometriosis does affect them too. And also some more women of color jumping on the lineup too. Just, I think I want it to be as inclusive as it possibly can. I just was shit out of luck this year trying to get the lineup that I was hoping to achieve, but all the girls in the lineup this year are fucking amazing, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So
yeah. Do you anticipate? Have you got any goals or plans around fundraising for any other companies, or are you pretty set on at the moment it being a specifically endo fundraising event?
I do love doing it for Endometriosis Australia. I think it is a big thing, but I do want to do more fundraising events. I don't think I would stop doing the endo fundraising, but maybe even look at next year, like splitting the funds between Endo Australia and maybe another organization. Like I've recently been diagnosed with a thing called PMDD, which I didn't even know existed before I got told I had it. And it's essentially like a disorder that only affects women in the menstrual cycle. And so the fact that I didn't know what it was, I'm kind of like, I would love to put some kind of event behind that as well. Yeah. But I also don't want to steer away from the endo direction too much as well. Because I think a lot of people have come to know that Babes Against Bullshit is for Endometriosis Australia. So it might even be like another event entirely when it gets to that. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I love the I love how you've got these angles for the fundraising, and it's, seems to be like a big part of your thinking and planning is like, how can I use this vehicle to better the community and better someone else's life, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. One thing I was gonna maybe touch on just before we start to there's two things actually. One is Plexus.
Yes, yeah.
Can you tell me about Plexus? Tell me about Plexus and is it, because I don't actually know what it is, or is it something you've explained to me before?
I think I might have touched on it briefly, but it's not really anything at the minute. I am kind of hoping to get back into it when I've got time, but essentially it was just a thing that I started with a friend of mine, Izzy, in the bigger lockdown last year, the one that started in August. And at that time, I remember going into that lockdown, and both myself and some good friends of mine had our shows cancelled the night that we went into lockdown, because we started at 8 p.m. and we were supposed to have our gigs that night.
Oh, right.
So it was a pretty, it was a pretty shitty night. Everyone was pretty upset. And there was a lot of us that just had gigs in that lockdown that had already been postponed like 2 or 3 times, that we were all going to have to just cancel and or postpone again. And so we were all just, I think, kind of sharing with each other. And I was kind of like, we can maybe make something good out of this. So we started doing a weekly Zoom with everyone in the group, and each week would have like a different discussion. So one week, I think we had one of my friends who's a sound engineer. He came on and spoke about his perspective as a sound engineer and what makes it easier for him at shows, how artists can help, and if anyone's interested in sound, how they can get into it. Myself and my friends at Ivy Music Group gave our perspective about being artist managers and advice to independent artists about how to navigate if they don't want to be managed just yet. We spoke about a couple of different things. I think we did one about merchandising as well, and then we did a PR and media one. So it was a really nice experience, kind of learning about what our other friends and other creatives do in the industry, and then, kind of having
and just leaning on each other as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a big thing of it. It was something to look forward to every week, knowing we could just jump on and have a chat about the industry with other people that get it. And so that happened, for most of lockdown. And it was honestly, it was one of the best things, I think, that gave me something to do as well, because I was feeling a little bit stuck with not having gigs and stuff. So it gave me stuff to organize and a way to talk to, my friends in the industry.
Bit of an outlet.
I think, absolutely. I think looking forward to the future, if I get time, I would love to host maybe a get together or even like seminars or something like that. It is a bit tricky because I think everyone's got gigs again now. So it's a lot harder to organize when you're out of lockdown. But that is something that I would like to hold on to in a way because it's like a special little community. But yeah, it's just about, I think, lining up with everyone's schedules. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, obviously, like, you know, we've all got a bit of making up to do in terms of
yeah, absolutely.
You know, we've got fucking 3 years worth of gigs to cram into this year. So
yeah, it's a lot. There's gigs all the time. So it's just, I think
it's full on.
Trying to work around that and everyone's schedules and try and find a day that suits, I guess, the majority of people, because I don't think everyone will be able to come down on the same day, but you can hope. Yeah,
totally. All right, Ash, I got one little question here before we start to wrap it up. If I'm a young artist in 2022, give me an idea of, in your opinion, where am I splitting my time? If I've got, say, you know, I've got 100% of free time, obviously outside of the creation of the music, just in terms of like, you know, how am I positioning myself? How am I putting myself out there? How am I breaking that up? What would you recommend?
So I think obviously, you know, you want to, like you said, dedicate a certain amount of time to creating your music. I think another big chunk of time as an independent artist should be dedicated to actually going out to other local gigs, introducing yourself to people. The biggest thing that you can have and the biggest thing that will help you in the industry as a young artist that, you know, doesn't know anyone is just networking and making friends, meeting other sound engineers, other artists, because they can all help you. They can all offer advice. Some of them might have managers that can help you even more. But I think artists like Jailbird Sage, like, I think, I don't even know how him and Drest became friends, but them knowing each other and always supporting each other has been huge. Just like having someone else to kind of guide you in the industry that might know you a little bit more. Know the industry a little bit more. But then also researching PR and media, kind of going out of your way to start building like a little folder of people that you can contact when a release comes, and maybe asking questions to other people that have done a release before and saying like, hey, when do you usually start the process? What do you do? How do you go about it? There's a couple of free resources out there too, like release checklists that you can look into. There's a bunch of groups on Facebook too that artists can join and ask questions in. And yeah, I think as an independent artist, you don't really need a manager or booking agent straight off the bat. I think that's the biggest thing that I would recommend to anyone is like, obviously, if you're completely lost and you feel like you really need it, go for it. But until you're at a stage where you're making enough money to start giving other people like some of your money, it's almost a waste of time. You can go to other people for advice and stuff, but it's always better to hold out a little bit. And in the meantime, just expand your network and start expressing interest to other people and saying, hey, I'd love to jump on a show. I'd love to come write a song with you, like record just do a session. Like the biggest thing in, I think, the industry for us is like friends. Yeah. Like I don't think I would have gotten to this stage in the industry where I'm at if I didn't know all the people that I know. Like getting out there, putting faces to names, showing showing what you are and what you're capable of, and supporting other artists too. Because if you go to someone's gig, they're gonna hopefully gonna come to yours. Totally. I love all that. And if someone wanted to reach out to you, would they be able to do that? And what would be the best way to do that? Yeah, absolutely. So best way to contact me is probably the Smash Music Group Instagram, which I'm pretty sure it's just Smash Music Group, but like with a dot in between each name. Does that make sense? Smash.music.group. Yes. So there's probably the best one. I try and check my requests there every other week. Otherwise, my email, I'll see that straight away. And that's just smashmusicgroup.contact@gmail.com. I'll link all that below as well. Yeah, easy. Yeah, cool. But always happy to help. So. Yeah, awesome. Well, Ash, I appreciate your time. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for jumping on for a call. And
if I don't see you, I'm not 100% sure that I'll see you on Thursday this week.
Yeah, or sweet.
I will definitely see you Thursday next week if I don't see you Thursday this week.
Yeah, I'll see you then. Yeah, easy.
But yeah, thanks for jumping in for a call. And yeah, hopefully I'll speak to you again soon.
No worries. Thanks for asking me. Yeah, I'll see you soon.
All right. See you, Ash.
Bye.